embrace to make you even want to try. Let's come together from across the land to end the stigma and shame. Let's be there for each other and let's loosen and break the chains. And you know it's true. The unborn matter too. So join us and unite, for we have just begun to fight. Sing it with me. Help us tell the nation we want a pro-life revolution. Help us tell the nation we want a pro-life revolution. We come together from near and far, from the mountains to the sand, because we've come to know that the future's in our hands. You never know what you're made of until the moment's come. Well, that day's today and that moment is now, and we shall overcome. And you know it's true. The unborn matter too. So join us and unite, for we have just begun to fight. Sing it with me. Help us tell the nation we want a pro-life revolution. Help us tell the nation we want a pro-life revolution. Again. Help us tell the nation we want a pro-life revolution. One more time. Help us tell the nation we want a pro-life revolution. Thank you, Washington, D.C. A better world is possible, and it starts with us. We can end the suffering. We can give it up. Every generation has an obligation to non-violence and non-discrimination. And you know it's true. The unborn matter too. So join us and unite, for we have just begun to fight. Help us tell the nation we want a pro-life revolution. Help us tell the nation we want a pro-life revolution. The world can be a scary place when you're just getting by, and there's no comfort or warm embrace to make you even want to try. Let's come together from across the land to end the stigma and shame. Let's be there for each other and let's loosen and break the chains. And you know it's true. The unborn matter too. So join us and unite, for we have just begun to fight. Sing it with me. Help us tell the nation we want a pro-life revolution. Help us tell the nation we want a pro-life revolution. We come together from near and far, from the mountains to the sand, because we've come to know that the future's in our hands. You never know what you're made of until the moment's come. and the suffering, we can give it up. Every generation has an obligation to non-violence and non-discrimination. And you know it's true. The unborn matter too. So join us and unite, for we have just begun to fight. Help us tell the nation we want a pro-life revolution. Help us tell the nation we want a pro-life revolution. The world can be a scary place when you're just getting by, and there's no comfort or warm embrace to make you even want to try. Let's come together from across the land to end the stigma and shame. Let's be there for each other, and let's loosen and break the chains. And you know it's true. The unborn matter too. So join us and unite, for we have just begun to fight. Sing it with me. Help us tell the nation we want a pro-life revolution. Help us tell the nation we want a pro-life revolution. We come together from near and far, from the mountains to the sand, because we've come to know that the
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get started. Hold on. Okay, I'm going to get this set up. That's right. Okay. All right, guys, how are we doing? How's life? We're going to be on today for however it takes, however long it takes. Oh, I'm pensive today too, Silver. That's interesting. Only one of my AirPods works, so which is beautiful. Exactly what I need today. Hold on. This is interesting. Yeah, wireless headphones are some of the most convenient yet also aggravating inventions of the digital age. You wouldn't believe. You wouldn't believe. Oh God. They never seem to work the way you want them to work. But it's all right. It's okay. It's just this is part of the process. All right. Is it going to work? Okay. Should be good. Oh, that's wonderful. Wait, because of me? Oh. Well, this is high praise. Knowledge is about inquiry. Consistent, constant inquiry. And so I'm happy my content provokes you to inquiry. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. I'm happy. Again, I don't take credit for that, though, because you're the one who exercised his will in that direction. And if you do that, you should give yourself credit. So bravo to you, sir. Very good. All right, guys. Well, thank you for watching, for being here. I don't know how long I'm going to go today. Normally when I stream for hours. I go hours. That's normally how it goes. But right now around the nation, there are people in almost every country, every city in the United States, almost every state in the United States, except a few Midwestern ones, protesting for what they call abortion rights, reproductive rights, which we understand is a misnomer and a category mistake and a contradiction in terms. But regardless, a bunch of people are under the allure of this misnomer, this category mistake, this contradiction in terms. So what do we do? And I'm going to be covering the DC rally, which is supposed to have began at 12 p.m. I'm going to try to find a feed here in a second. But before I do that, I'm going to show you guys the interactive map. There's an interactive map that displays. You guys see that map? It displays all of the events happening around the nation today. You guys see that? And so we have here in almost, again, as you can see, almost every state in the country. Almost every state in the country. There's 16 events happening in Florida. There's 11 events happening in this area of Texas, 7 in this area, 2 in this area. There's 26 in this area of California, 23 in that area of California. Oh, yes, lots of spots, lots of spots, lots of spots. In Pennsylvania, well, there's a few happening in Pennsylvania. One in the capital, one in this side of the state. There's a big one happening in New York City. No, this is Long Island, actually, probably. Is this Long Island? That's Long Island. That's Long Island. There is a big one happening in New York City, though. Where is New York City at on this map? I should be able to find New York. If I can't find New York in a map, then I need help. Ah, there we go. So there's a big one happening right in New York City. There are events happening all across the country. And the big one is at the National Mall in Washington, D.C. But it's just fascinating. Look, even everywhere across this nation, Salt Lake City, and of course there'd be one in Salt Lake City, a few in Salt Lake City. Wyoming, Nebraska, Kansas. Wow. There's one in Wichita. There's one in Manhattan, Kansas. Now, I'm familiar with Manhattan, Kansas. I went to Kansas State University to speak one time. That little town is very special to me. I don't know what it is, but it's a very special town for me. But you would not expect it to be the host of a protest, but voila, there it is. So virtually in every aspect of the country, these rallies are happening. Some have already started. The one in Manhattan started at 10:30 Central, which is about 11:30 my time. So that started about 30 so minutes ago. Man. Yeah, a lot of them started much earlier, an hour ago. But the one in DC, which is the one we're going to be focused on, that began about 13 minutes ago, I believe. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to find footage. We're going to find footage. Oh, hold on. Yeah, so that one began 13 minutes ago. So we're going to go ahead and find footage so we can begin. Okay, abortion protests. While we find footage, guys, tell me how your day's going. Okay, so I can't find footage for DC yet. But hello, Bob. There should, yes, there are. I would be shocked if there weren't. Let's see. I would be shocked if there weren't any in Seattle. Let's see. Oh, man, my eyes are failing me today. This is what happens when you go to sleep late. That's not Seattle. What are you doing, Watson? What's wrong with you? What the hell is Twisp? See, I'm going to some obscure town in the same state. Yeah. Is this it? My sense of geography. That's Spokane. No, it's not Seattle. It's Spokane. My sense of geography is throwing me off. Hold on. Why can't I find this city? Maybe because this map is just weird. Yeah. Okay. I'm going, Bob. I'm going to assume that there are some in Seattle. In fact, I know there are some in Seattle. I would be shocked if there weren't some in Seattle. But there they are. There it is. There it is. There it is. There it is. Okay. Okay. Yes. There's one right downtown. It seems. Yes. 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 It started. It started. Well, it's gonna. No, it hasn't started quite yet. It starts at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So, Women's March is on. Women's March is on. This is in DC. Okay, so the Women's March they are streaming the DC rally, but I want to make sure that I'm not going to get copyright. So until then, there's one happening in Vermont right now. Let's go see that one because there's happening all across the country. There's one happening in a city near me too, but I don't want to go because if I had a cameraman, guys, I would be down at my state capitol right now reporting on it live. If I had a cameraman, I don't have that yet. Maybe eventually we'll have that kind of capability. You'll see Christian Watson go on the streets. Not literally go on the streets. Like, I don't want to be on the streets like homeless, but like go on the streets to report. Okay, hold on. Okay, stop this screen. Hold on. Okay. Share screen.
To introduce Kel Arbor. Kel is the director of the Health and Wellness Program at Pride Center of Vermont. Please help me welcome Kel. Kel, I just need to sanitize.
Oh, totally.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Ahoy! My name is Kel Arbor. That's Kelly without a Y, so I don't wonder why. My pronouns are warrior and they, and I am the director of health and wellness at the Pride Center. Thank you, Taylor Small, for the tiara. I'm here today to call in intersectionality. With each identity that we hold, ability, race, gender, nationality, sexuality, etc., the more stigmatized the identity is, the higher chance of sickness and poor health. You might not see me as someone needing vaginal care. I am a person assigned female at birth. I roll with a vulva.
That's a woman? Oh, God.
As a genderqueer kid, I told myself,
I'm not
hang
insulting
on, someday you'll
trans
get
people,
that
I'm just-
hysterectomy.
What?
But doctor knows best, and my youthful fertility was not to be tampered with. I did finally get that hysterectomy, but only because I lived for years with cysts. A few years after I had my womb renovated, we found out I was dying with an AIDS diagnosis. The lack of providers understanding the intersections of my gender and sexuality did not help us detect HIV soon enough.
How'd you get
I
AIDS?
receive better health care from my providers now, but it's still subpar to what I need.
How'd you get
Non-binary and trans folks like me,
Was it intersection?
people of color, and people with disabilities.
Hold on.
We are extra in need of sexual health and reproductive liberty.
No. How'd you get AIDS? Is getting AIDS an issue of intersectionality? Were you having promiscuous sex? Were you sharing syringes and doing intravenous drugs? How'd you get AIDS? I hate stopping live speeches, but when I hear these people say with a serious face that they got AIDS and that has something to do with their gender and their identity in society, I can't conceptualize It's a total non sequitur. How'd you get AIDS? First of all, if you have AIDS, you had HIV first. How'd you get that? I don't know. Oh God, we're in for a long day, aren't we?
And center leaders with the most marginalized lived experience. For example, people of color, trans and non-binary people, and people with disabilities. Be our accomplices out there and disrupt the harm that you're seeing. Our
What
relationships are power. Start with the closest people you care about and call in, lean in to learning, discomfort, and action. The Reproductive Liberty Amendment directly impacts our work in Vermont to uplift LGBTQ+ people out of stigma and sickness and into liberation. This impacts all of our lives. Reproductive liberty affects us all. It's not just a woman's issue. This is about vasectomies. This is about all of our bodies. This amendment would be a good move for Vermont, and we lead the nation in good. But good is mediocre. Great is what we need, and I see that greatness potential in Vermont. Let us not stop until Black and brown women, femmes, and trans people can live in liberation. Let us celebrate these small changes and keep stepping into freedom. Let us bring the visibility of love and togetherness into the streets. Let us be the change we want to see in the world. Thank you.
Okay, a few things there. I'm going to stop this. Number one, there's nothing. There's nothing. Okay, I'm still waking up, guys. By the way, so this is probably a bad prep ritual to do when I'm waking up watching this kind of gobbledygook. But I love you guys, and I want to create content, and I think this is an important, consequential moment in our nation. So I'm going to do it. First of all, reproductive liberty is a misnomer and a category mistake. It's a misnomer in the sense that it misclassifies liberty. It describes something as liberty that is not liberty. It's a category mistake because for the same reason, it doesn't actually belong in the category of liberty, right? Reproductive liberty, you don't, what he's saying there is that, or what she's saying or whatever, is that you have a right to certain services, certain goods that would assist the reproductive process. You don't, right? Liberty is not a demand on someone to give you something. Liberty is a restriction on someone's ability to do something to you, typically on someone's ability to defraud you or harm you. Liberty is not permissive. Liberty is prohibitory. Okay, so if we have this prohibitory conception of liberty, which is the only correct conception of liberty, reproductive liberty doesn't exist. It is a construction meant to masquerade what would really simply be coerced support of your personal choices under the banner of what is otherwise a benevolent term, i.e. liberty. So that's one thing that we have to get really clear here. That's a category mistake and a misnomer. And there are many people who are laboring under these kind of false assumptions. Number two, I still can't get over this fact that apparently getting AIDS is an intersectional problem. There are so many resources out there. Okay, back in the 80s and the 90s, if you got HIV, you were almost certain to die from it. If you got HIV, it was going to progress to eventually the level of full-blown AIDS. There wasn't the infrastructure back then. There was a lot of social stigma back then. Even people like Freddie Mercury, one of my favorite singers, died of full-blown AIDS. And someone as rich as Freddie Mercury, as culturally iconic as Freddie Mercury, dying of AIDS, that's a big deal. Today, that would never happen. Why wouldn't that happen? Because today, you got something called Truvada, also known as PrEP, which basically effectively prevents you getting HIV at all, which cuts it out of the equation. You've got a lot of healthcare centers that will give you PrEP for free. In certain states, the State Department of Health will hand out PrEP for free. So in almost every case, the prevention mechanisms for HIV are so profound that even if you're in a destitute state in your life, you should be able to secure preventative medication. There's also something else you can do as well if you don't want to get HIV. You can watch who you have sex with. Unfortunately, and I'm going to piss some people off here, gay men, bisexual men, all tend to be very promiscuous. I'm not knocking it. I'm not saying sex is bad. I'm the last person to say that. But what I am saying is that if you have sex with a lot of people, your chances of getting diseases like HIV, like syphilis, like gonorrhea, what's the big one? HPV, go up substantially. So just watch who you have sex with. You know, the average gay man, I have no idea. I read a statistic somewhere. I'm not going to quote it entirely because I'm not certified. I'm not sure if it's certifiably true. But the average gay man, according to survey data, has many more sexual partners than the average heterosexual man. That leads to certain outcomes. Anyway. So I don't understand some of these arguments. They make no sense to me, and the fact that I'm tired doesn't help out either. So let's continue.
Liberty Amendment is the proposed amendment to the Vermont Constitution that guarantees the right to personal reproductive liberty for all Vermonters. Now is not the time for complacency. Vermont must lead the way and pass it in November. Its passage ensures access to the full spectrum of reproductive health care and Vermonters' rights to make their own decision in terms of becoming pregnant, to use temporary or permanent birth control, or to seek abortion care.
Okay, abortion care is not a right.
To characterize the reproductive
Getting birth control is not a right, by the way. None of those things are rights.
But at its core, it's about the public's health.
Okay.
Reproductive health care is intensely private, personal, and should be firmly a matter between providers and, most importantly, patients. I saw this firsthand as an emergency physician, spending most of my career here in Vermont. Unfettered access to quality reproductive health care is essential to a healthy population. The potential action
Thank you. I got it at a thrift store.
by the Supreme Court overturning
very
Roe
nice, very cozy.
will have profound effects on the health of Americans. And while abortions will still be legal here in Vermont, we need stronger protections provided by the RLA.
Reproductive RLA, Liberty Amendment. Okay,
America
guys. So
already has.
hold on. What they're talking about here. Okay, so apparently there's this legislative measure in Vermont that would secure abortion rights in the state level, I'm guessing. And there's a lot of progressive states that are doing this. And I guess for Vermont, they're calling it the Reproductive Liberty Amendment. That's what he's talking about. He says the RLA, just for context.
Increase maternal deaths by more than 20%. Every year, 60,000 women suffer consequences from labor and delivery. This too will likely increase with the overturning of Roe. 20 states are poised to restrict access to abortion for over 36 million people if Roe is overturned by the court. Removing access to safe and legal abortion will set the U.S. back even further regarding maternal health and worsen existing health disparities. Women and girls will be injured. Some will likely die from illegal, unsafe abortions.
Okay.
This will take us back.
Okay. We have to really nail this down here. In the event that Roe is overturned, abortion will not be illegal nationwide. In the event that Roe is overturned, which it will be, abortion will be illegal in certain states. But you quite literally have almost the whole of corporate America, galvanized by this, offering their employees stipends to go get abortions. You have certain states willing to pay for you to go get an abortion as well. This idea that we're going to go back to the 1960s or pre-1960s, if we get rid of Roe on a federal level, makes no sense. And it reflects the narrow understanding that a lot of these people who are saying this bullcrap have of I'm too tired for this, guys. We're gonna keep going. I'm gonna get some more coffee. We're gonna keep going, though. We're gonna listen to this guy. We'll keep going.
This passing the amendment will enshrine reproductive autonomy and self-control in our Constitution. Let us get it done and send a strong message that Vermont believes in and will protect reproductive rights for all. We can't do this alone. If you're able to donate anything, you can to Reproductive Liberty Amendment campaign, please do so. There are posters all over the grounds here with a QR code that will enable you to donate directly to the campaign. $5, $10, $20 will go a long way in reaching our goal to protect reproductive rights in Vermont for the long term. So thank you so much for being here and for your vote, especially in November. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. I would now like to introduce our next speaker, Maroni Minter. Born and raised in Gabon, Maroni moved to Vermont in 2004. Maroni now works at Ben & Jerry's. Please help me welcome Maroni.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Maroni. I'm the U.S. Activist Manager with Ben & Jerry's. And before I start, let me just say, if you haven't gotten your free ice cream yet, the truck is back there, so please stop by and get your free ice cream. Now, I am here today because, like so many of you, we at Ben & Jerry's believe and stand for rights of individuals to make reproductive health care decisions for themselves. Liberty is central to our freedom and dignity, and everyone should have the right to determine their own life course. And when it comes to the most important decisions in life, such as whether to become a parent, every person should have the right to determine their own life course, regardless of their race, gender, religion, income, or zip code. Now, while abortion has been legal for nearly 5 decades, many communities have never experienced true access to abortion care because of policies rooted in systemic racism. Black, Indigenous, and people of color do not have access to health care, from abortion to prenatal care to preventive care, because of the systemic racism and structural inequality. Our concerns are often ignored or not taken seriously. We have the highest rate of maternal and infant death, and we are more likely to be investigated, prosecuted, and punished for pregnancy outcomes. I am speaking not just as an advocate, but as a man and a brother of 6 sisters. This is personal to me. As mentioned already, I come from Gabon, where it is extremely difficult to get safe abortion care. One of my cousins died during abortion on her own. I almost lost two of my sisters because they did not have access to safe abortion. In 2019, the second oldest of my sisters was pregnant, and afraid of how the family would react, she decided to have an abortion. Not having a clinic or a safe place under medical professionals, she bought pills on the street and almost died. And it was luck that I happened to be there and had some money, took my sister to the hospital to save her life. Now, I want to warn you that the worst part of this story contains sexual violence. Almost 3 years ago now, my sister finally told me how she got pregnant and why she did not want to keep the baby. She was raped by a family member. If my sisters had access to safe abortions, they would not have put their own lives at risk. And I truly believe that if my cousin had access to safe abortion, she would still be alive today. Now, no one should lose their lives or their loved one because they lack access to safe abortion. Now, I want to thank all legislators and leaders here today, because while the Supreme Court leaks makes the deepest fear clear to so many, this year Vermont has an opportunity to protect abortion rights and become the first state to preserve reproductive liberty in our Constitution. If passed by voters in November, the Reproductive Liberty Amendment would guarantee all people who live in Vermont the right to become pregnant and carry a pregnancy to term, to choose or refuse sterilization, to choose abortion, and to choose or refuse contraception. The constitutional amendment allows people who live in Vermont an opportunity to preserve these liberties. I urge you to vote yes on the Reproductive Liberty Amendment this November and tell your community member to get out and do so. Now, let us be clear. The Supreme Court's decision will not only impact women, it will impact LGBTQ community, which is why we at Ben & Jerry's are promoting support for the trans community in key states where regressive policies are being considered or have passed. We are pulling billboards in states like Texas, Georgia, Virginia, Florida, and so on.
All right. Sorry,
the
I'm back
message
now.
on these billboards share our disagreement with these policies being
Oh,
passed.
Jesus, who is this?
We have partnered with the National
Hello,
Center
everybody
for
who just came in.
Transgender Equality
Hello.
to share our support of people who identify as trans in our country. And to let people know that brands have a place to support communities that we serve. The billboards are placed within 1 mile radius to the Capitol building in each state to make sure that our message is seen clear and heard loud. Now, the truth is, no matter how the Supreme Court decides on this case ultimately, we at Ben & Jerry's and our allies across the country will never stop fighting
This is
for
Ben
the
&
right
Jerry's.
of individuals
I've never liked
to
their
make
ice cream.
reproductive healthcare
Not only
decisions
that,
for
but
themselves.
okay. There's something to be said.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Get out
Okay.
in November. Make sure you vote for the Reproductive Liberty Amendment.
Okay. There's something to be said about Ben & Jerry's. Ben & Jerry's is one of the few businesses built upon capitalism. Actually, I'm not going to say one of the few. One of the many businesses built upon capitalism who firmly repudiate it whenever and wherever they can. And I just find that so fascinating. Their entire operation is built upon a system that they don't affirm. that they think is oppressive, that they think is creating social injustice. There's this sort of double-mindedness to some of these people. It's not even cognitive dissonance, because if it were, you would think that they would be a little bit more ashamed of what they're doing and saying, but there's not. And a lot of us in life, my friends, experience a kind of double-mindedness. We do. A lot of us believe, okay, so think of the human body as, I'm not going to use my river analogy because I'm still working my river analogy, but you guys are going to see me reuse my river analogy more and more. Last night, me and a friend of mine, we were in the call talking about how human life and human action and human potential are much like a river. I'm not going to do that because that would be very long, and it takes a very complicated understanding of geography to get where I'm going. Imagine the human body as a lamppost. A lamppost has a particular function. Now, lampposts can look many different ways. They can, okay, not a lamppost, a street light, which is like a big street light, okay? They have a very particular function, and they can look many different ways depending on where they are, okay? But a street light is not a self-contained unit. It is surrounded by a lot of differing things. Sometimes at night, moths will congregate around the hue of the street light. You can just ask me. I can walk outside of my apartment and I can see moths just gathered around the street light because they like that. They like that source of illumination. In the daytime, cars may go by it. People may write graffiti on it, right? The street light preserves its function amid everything that is interacting with it. When you have a double consciousness, a double-mindedness, you're unaware of your function, and thus you're not in a position to preserve it. And so, if we want to liken this to the street light, then we could say that the street light no longer burns bright. In fact, it burns bright half the time and cuts out half the time because its energy is split between two separate conditions. That's what's going on when these companies profess capitalism and then attack capitalism, profess capitalism with their actions and attack capitalism. It's not, people want to say it's hypocrisy. And guys, if you ever come to me and say and use the argument hypocrisy in a serious way, I'm going to get mad. I don't care. Newsflash. I don't care if people are hypocrites. I care about if their actions are principally sound. I don't care if you're a hypocrite. Be the biggest hypocrite ever. Is what you're doing principally sound? Because hypocrisy is a statement about someone's character, not necessarily about someone's actions or the orientation of their actions. So I don't care about hypocrisy. It doesn't matter. Maybe on a personal level it does, but I don't care about it. Okay? So we have this double-mindedness coming from people like Ben and Jerry's, where people run that. And it's so fascinating to see. Bob puts it even better than I did. Think of an unanchored, in-principle grab bag of ideas decided by boom. Yes, exactly. All right, let's proceed. Let's proceed.
Lost. In this crowd, I am sure there are thousands of stories like these, like mine. Each day, people in all corners of our state and our country face questions and decisions about their reproductive health. And each and every one of us ought to be able to use our own sacred conscience and agency to make the decisions that are right for each of us and our families, including
conscience. Okay. I'm happy she said conscience. Because conscience, my friends, is, I believe every human being is built in with a moral sense, a sense of what is right and a sense of what is wrong. These are not subjective feelings like some in society would have you believe. And it's not mere intuition either. It may be approximate intuition, but it's a little bit more refined than that. We all have a moral sense. And our moral sense conforms, or our conscience rather, conforms to our moral sense. Now, this lady is talking about a different kind of conscience than what I understand. Because the conscience that I understand is pretty solid and, settled. The conscience she understands is one based on your condition, your gender, your place in the oppression hierarchy. Conscience. See, you don't bastardize these words. They mean something. They have profound meaning. They have wondrous meaning. You don't bastardize them. Let's go.
Your religion, your race, your sexuality, or how much money you have in your bank account, we all have the right to make important decisions about our lives, our futures, and our bodies, and to have access to the care that we need and desire. So with these rights under attack, Vermont's Reproductive Liberty Amendment is critically important to upholding our freedom and dignity. We have the opportunity to channel our fear, our hurt, our anger, and our power. And I want to say, especially to religious leaders and any people in faith communities, that now is the time to show up with the best of our liberatory theology and our values for reproductive justice and freedom.
No.
Let us all use our voice.
Stop. I'm sorry. I'm awake now. Did she just say our liberatory theology? Is this woman a proponent of liberation theology? Liberation theology, lady, is not theology. That is social science dressed up under the garb of divinity. What is wrong with you? See, this is, man, my Christianity isn't as doctrinaire. Yes, Silvar, this is almost sacrilegious. Look, my Christianity isn't very doctrinaire, right? I have interpretations of the Bible that many people don't agree with. That's fine. Having said that, even I recognize that liberation theology is absolute mischaracterization of the content of the gospel. Someone's asking, what is liberation theology? Liberation theology is basically this idea of theology that is based upon social justice. It's a very oversimplification. Let's read about this together. It is based upon social justice, but let's read about this together. Actually, we're gonna cut away from this for a second. It focuses on freeing people from social conditions, but I'm doing a very crude description of liberation theology. But here we go. All right. Liberation theology, religious movement arising in the late 20th century, Roman Catholicism, and centered in Latin America. It sought to apply religious faith by aiding the poor and oppressed through involvement in political and civic affairs. It stressed both the heightened awareness of the sinful socioeconomic structures that cause social inequities and active participation in changing those structures. Liberation theologians believe that God speaks particularly to the poor and that the Bible can be understood only when seen from the perspective of the poor. They perceive that the Catholic Church in Latin America was fundamentally different from the Church in America, i.e., that the Church in Latin America should be actively engaged in improving the lives of the poor. In order to build this church, they established comunidades de base communities, which were local Christian groups composed of 10 to 30 members each that both cited the Bible and attempted to meet the parishioners' immediate need for food, water, sewage, and electricity. So, it's essentially this binding. Yes, Silvar. Yes. It's this binding of faith and spirituality with social justice, with structuralist thought, and ultimately with the seeds of Marxism. That's what it is. Now look, the content of some of this, helping the poor, there's nothing wrong with helping the poor. The problem is when your entire faith becomes based upon works, upon social justice. Faith is not based upon works, and this is one of the reasons why I fundamentally think Catholicism has something off. I'm not trying to offend anybody, but your relationship with Christ, if you're a Christian, this is for Christians here, guys. So ignore me if you're not a Christian. Your relationship with Christ is not based upon works. It's based upon the grace of his sacrifice. And so from that point, liberation theology is just messed up. But from a different point, trying to intertwine my spiritual life with the physical facts of life is even more messed up. Christianity is a religion of transcendence. The Christian is in constant struggle with the self, in constant tension with the physical, right? The idea, and you hear this a lot amongst Christians, is that we're not simply bodies. We're souls who happen to inhabit bodies. This was the great thing said by C.S. Lewis. Okay. And if that is true, every constituent part of the body, whether it be our hunger, whether it be our desires of all sorts, should be denied on the altar of that which is transcendent, i.e., that which is Christ. Liberation theology entirely skews that and misses the point. And the reason why I went to Britannica, guys, is not because I'm trying to cheat you out of anything. It's just because I want to make sure I'm speaking precisely. I had an idea about liberation theology, but I want to make sure I'm speaking precisely. Because I'm trying to give you guys fruit, And my fruit's not all that precious right now, but I'm trying to give you guys fruit, the little fruit I have. It's really vile. It's really vile. It's not good stuff. It's not good stuff. The spiritual life of the church should be separate from the material considerations of the world. And there's actually a bunch of progressive Christian theologians that forcefully contest this idea. I took a Christian ethics class, and Christian ethics both basically is just progressive theologians trying to, create things and make them sound important. But I took a Christian ethics class, and literally, one of the books we read said, Protestants don't like to be involved in the world. They want to just be non-interventionist, and that's bad. Well, first of all, it's not true, because Protestant denominations are actually incredibly active in the world. Have you seen Pentecostals? Have you seen evangelicals? Have you seen? This is inside baseball now, so let me just stop. But yeah, that's liberation theology. It's liberation theology. All right, back to the Vermont. I hope I did a good job explaining that.
Shown up and shown out every single day. You all are here today because we are standing in solidarity, right? This work has been long coming. This work has been necessary. This has been a slog that's actually taken entirely too long when you think about the fundamental pieces of why we have to fight. We have a historical precedence in this nation of ignoring the needs and outrightly coming through to actually limit our body autonomy for the purposes of profit,
this woman,
power,
profit,
and greed.
See,
Historical
this is the straw man
precedence here today.
This is the straw man.
We can look at the kidnap.
This is the straw man.
The forced marriage and rape of indigenous women at the founding
Hold
of this
on.
nation.
Hey.
Pocahontas is not a triumphant story.
Oh.
It was determined by those in power that indigenous people needed to be wiped off the planet.
Oh.
And that indigenous women's bodies
Oh.
men's bodies.
Oh, yes.
Two-spirited bodies needed to
Ooh.
not only be regulated, but
Two-spirit.
owned, managed, and controlled.
Oh, okay.
We have
You
a
preach it, sister. Come on, keep
historical
going.
precedence
Oh, yeah.
of chattel slavery.
Ooh.
This
Scary
country was literally built on using Black women's bodies,
Ooh.
Black men's bodies,
Oh, yes.
to create a population of slaves,
Ooh.
to build these buildings,
Oh.
to create these roads, to
Oh.
feed our economy.
Ooh.
Black women have been fighting for their rights
Oh,
to have
have
bodily autonomy ever since we were snatched off the shores.
Ooh. You were a snatch lady? Really? By whom?
And it is real
Oh.
to acknowledge
Huh?
that these Black women's bodies
Oh.
are used in the same ways
Oh.
that we would of cattle, the same ways that we were spoken of
Well,
as
I'm learning something
commodities.
today, guys. Come on, this is great.
This
Where's my pen at?
heifer's good for raising. This
Oh.
stud will do great.
Oh.
We're going to create a race of Blacks to continue
Oh.
to have the physical fortitude
Oh.
to deal with the terrors of slavery. This is the historical precedence that is on our precipice right now. And if you are not okay with that, I want to hear you say, that ain't right.
This woman.
We know that there is forced sterilization that is a part of this country's history. Forced sterilization, regardless of gender. Used
What?
both as a tool of terrorism and of very specific bodily autonomy control. That of Black, Indigenous, Latinx, anyone who was deemed to be non-white, the disability community. I know of a disabled man, an individual with disabilities who had cerebral palsy and was stuck in an institution in Mississippi. And because he was a Black man with cerebral palsy, he was castrated. I know of a Black woman elder who in her 70s still cries about the fact that she woke up after giving birth to her child to find out that they had stolen her fertility without her consent.
Okay. All right. Hold
It
on.
was not
I'm about to
even
deal with this
7
woman.
years ago
I'm about to deal with
that
this
I
woman.
met a woman at a playground
Okay,
who
I'm
was
about to handle
there at
this
the
woman.
same time I was there with my child and told a very chilling, similar story where it was determined by some doctors that it was in her best interest to take away her reproductive rights without her consent.
Oh.
Mid-surgical procedure.
Huh. Woo.
And this woman in her
Mid-procedure?
20s wept.
Oh, Jesus wept.
Our current practices are still happening and our Supreme Court justices are justifying it.
Oh.
The words that Alito came up with
Oh, what did he come up with? Tell me. Say
are
it.
absolutely rooted in systemic racism, in patriarchy, and a complete abandonment of gender justice.
All right, guys. I can't.
Abortion rights are something that's directly affected not only my family, but myself.
This woman.
I learned not that
lived
long ago
experience.
that one of my great-grandmothers died following an abortion because she could not see herself having a sixth child in an abusive marriage. She died to try to seek her freedom from that terror. Myself, not even 19 in my freshman year of college, coming out the other side of a very emotionally abusive relationship, found out that I was pregnant. And after having already been sexually assaulted and told very clearly that my body was not of my own, I had to make that difficult decision for my life and my rights. And today I'm the proud mother of a beautiful boy. And it was the right timing. It was the right space. And I could not be more honored to have that role, but there's so many who can't, so let's not pretend like that's the only reason why we're here today. I want to honor Dr. Chen, if he's still around. He might be hiding in the shade.
Okay, hold on.
He might have left already. I want to honor Planned Parenthood because when I served in this legislature, we had to fight to pass a bill to give contraception for all. Yes, that's right. It was Planned Parenthood at the fight to ensure
Yeah, I'm sure Planned Parenthood did a lot of good
that
stuff.
everyone would have access to free contraception, including vasectomies.
Okay, yeah.
And that was a fight.
Oh, I'm sure it was.
That was a fight that we didn't know we were going to need. We said there's no way the ACA is going to be overturned, but just in case, let's codify it. So that's what we're here to do today. We're here to make sure that this proposition goes through. Okay. It can't just be a thought. It has to become a reality because we have...
This woman is making me nauseous. I say in my videos that I don't like to attack people. I like to focus on ideas. Having said that, this woman said a bunch of things that amount to nothing more than verbal diarrhea. So what do I need to do? I need to go ahead and go through some of these things. I'm not going to go through all of it because a lot of you understand that it's already nonsense. And I have nothing to prove to anybody. But she said that Alito's words were based in patriarchy and systemic racism. So I'm here on the leaked draft of the words. The leaked draft of the opinion. And here's the very end. This is over, spans over, the actual text spans over 67 pages. The actual document spans over 98 pages. But here's what he says at the very end. This is how he ties it all up. Alito says the following. We end this opinion where we began. Abortion presents a profound moral question. The Constitution does not prohibit the citizens of each state from regulating or prohibiting abortion. Roe and Casey arrogated that authority. We now overrule those decisions and return that authority to the people and their elected representatives. In what part of those sentences screams patriarchy or racism? In fact, shouldn't that scream empowerment? The fact that these people allegedly believe in democracy and they believe in voting on things and being social activists, shouldn't having power return to your local government, which may be staffed by progressives or conservatives, depending on which state you're in, shouldn't that be empowering? That is just one of the things she said that makes absolutely zero sense. Not only that, but gender justice doesn't exist, as Silvar pointed out. Justice is a natural principle which needs no modifier. If it has a modifier, it becomes something else. And so it's categorically wrong to say that. Bodies, okay. First of all, most of the buildings built around that lady were probably built in a time when slavery did not exist. Most modern cities have modern infrastructure. So that's one thing. Another thing, this reduction of the human being to a body, to a mere physical unit, is quite disturbing. It'd be like reducing a river to an estuary, or reducing a river to a creek, right? Because creeks ultimately flow into rivers. Well, that ignores the whole of what the river is. A river is not, or even reducing a river to simply a body of water. A river is not merely a body of water. A river is a body of water which contains ecosystems of life, which provides fertile soil, which provides a lot of things for civilizations to flourish. Some of the greatest civilizations in the world were built on rivers. But if you were to simply see the river as a body of water, you would miss its true significance. If you simply see people as bodies, you miss their true significance. So there's a lot of things that were wrong with that speech. But what we're going to do right now, we're going to go over to Washington, D.C. That's where the main rally is. And there's also going to be one in Los Angeles that we'll go to. But Washington, D.C. is where the main rally is. We're going to see if they're doing anything substantial. Okay, there are. Okay. This is a congresswoman this is in D.C. This is in D.C. This is in D.C. Hold on.
Shame on them. Shame on them. Shame on them. Shame on them.
Can you guys hear this?
Shame on them.
It might be a little bit low. Let me know if you can hear it.
Yes, I have seen the dim light down a dark alley. I survived, but many women, especially Black, Latina, Indigenous, and other women of color did not. Now, let me tell you briefly a quick story about my mentor, the first African-American woman elected to Congress, the first African-American and woman to seriously mount a candidacy for president of these United States in 1972. Y'all know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's to be Shirley Chisholm. Yeah, I'm sure. I called it. Shirley Chisholm. I know. I already knew that.
You know it? Shirley Chisholm for president.
Yeah.
Was Shirley Chisholm.
Yeah, she's probably low. See, that this is the problem. These people put on these big rallies, and they don't even have their audio fixed. Okay, let's go to Texas. We'll go back to DC soon. Let's go to Texas. Let's see what's going on.
More than 2/3 of people who get abortions in Texas are Texans of color, Black and brown. It is not a coincidence that the radical right wing is hell-bent on banning us from making decisions about our own bodies. About a very fundamental idea that we can determine our own futures. Together, let's remember Loretta Ross's reproductive justice framework.
There's nothing.
1, we have the right not to have children.
Yes, you do.
2,
Don't have
we
sex.
have the right to have children. 3, we have the right to parent our children in safe and healthy environments.
No.
We can use
No, you don't.
this framework to dream.
No, you don't.
To vision out what a Texas for all looks like, what it feels like, what it tastes like. Not for the radical right wing, whose ideas are retrograde and unpopular.
You just said Texas for all, and now you're specifying a particular political orientation.
Remember what I said, Texas is our home. Our what? Our what? Speaking of home, there's an image I have of my grandmother when I think about what the future might look like, when I'm trying to vision, which is a part of my job as an organizer, and it's a part of your job too if you are standing in this audience. It's a mental snapshot I have of her that I must have taken millions of times. It's of her standing on the corner of her block. Shout out that she lived here in Austin, Springdale and Leslie. If you know, you know. And she's cupping her hand on her head like this. And her chin is raised and she's kind of twisting to get a last glimpse. And I know she's praying. She's praying for safe passage on whatever my next adventure is. She's standing on that corner and she is holding a vision. She is seeing me through to the other side. Our first job today is to hold tight to that vision. That a different Texas is possible. And that we have the freedom to determine what that future looks like.
You don't control the future, lady.
Together we can, in fact, win.
Okay. I'm going to introduce... No. Okay. Okay. I'm going to introduce you guys to a term. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. Some of you have heard of it. Others of you have not heard of it. But it was a term that has been around since ancient times. And it was talked about in the contemporary sense by a thinker, a very prudent thinker called Vogelin. Now, I didn't agree with Vogelin on everything, but I think Vogelin had a lot of the right ideas on some things. And I want to expose this term to you. This term is called, hope some of you can preempt me in the chat. Maybe not, I'm going to be moving very fast. This term is called, Gnosticism. Gnosticism. Now, this article talks about Gnosticism in terms of the religious sense. However, What Gnosticism essentially is, at least how Vogelin popularized it. Gnosticism is this belief that you can bring, this is how Vogelin popularized it, heaven onto earth. That you can change the fundamental structure of reality just by your actions. When that lady says, this is our future and we can change it, she's essentially being Gnostic. Now, of course, in the religious sense, Gnosticism is also a sense of mysticism. It's a very different idea of God. There's a bunch of different uses of the word Gnosticism. But in the political, contemporary 20th century sense, this is how Vogelin used it. In society right now, we have a bunch of Gnostics trying to reshape the world. And since the fundamental laws of reality are irresolute and intractable, they're coming up against... Right. So Gnostic comes from the Greek word gnosis, which means knowledge, roughly. Right. But as I mentioned, Gnosticism has a lot of different meanings. Okay. So there's the religious meaning of Gnosticism. Then there is the Gnostic idea that Vogelin, who was a thinker of the 20th century, popularized. And so Vogelin essentially said that Gnostics believe that with this knowledge they have, they can literally shape the fabric of reality. The truth is, we have a lot of Gnostics or Gnostic acting people running us right now. Well, not running us, but being involved in society. And that lady is a prime candidate for one of them. So I thought I would expose you guys to that concept. In fact, I think that sometimes, the religious meaning of the Gnostic, I think, yes, okay. This is what it says about Vogelin. Vogelin believed that the ancient heresy of Gnosticism pervaded the modern world, perverting our understanding of not only time and history, but also the very nature of the human person. The Gnostic, he believed, hates this world, seeing it as a trap, as a means by which our soul becomes imprisoned and lost in the desires and limitations of the flesh. So Gnosticism is this obfuscation of what is. Okay. All right, I've gone on long enough about that. Let's go back to hands off our bands, our bodies, whatever these people are saying these days. I feel like a crotchety old man right now. I feel like a crotchety old man. Oh God. Okay. Back to this nut house. If they're all even on.
Healthcare.
Okay. Sorry about the microphone, guys. It's not my fault. It's their fault.
The government has no business interfering in doctor-patient relationships. And it is indefensible for any state leader to weaponize the so-called child welfare system against our loving families who are just supporting the hell out of their trans kids.
No.
Trans rights are repro rights.
No.
And repro rights are trans
This man is a string.
This
man is a string of catchphrases.
And an extremist, authoritarian government that will do anything to get it. Because if
First
they
of all,
valued our lives,
let's handle one thing right now. There's no such thing as a trans child. There are children who are confused about their identity, as children normally are. There's no such thing as a trans child. There are adults that want to inflict their values and their ideas upon children and mold them how they think they should be molded. Okay. Let's break this down. Okay. Human beings are carriers of potential. Think of it like a river. Rivers come from many different sources. Some come from glacier melt. Some come from rain runoff. Some come from traditional headwaters. Okay. And when the river begins, it has many different forms. Sometimes it's a reel, sometimes it's a brook or a creek, and they all flow down into something. Now, as they're flowing down into something, they have an immense amount of energy. If you doubt me, look at a whitewater rapid. Look at a waterfall. When a river is just beginning, it has an immense amount of energy. It's a crescendo of energy. And it's just going down. And it has so much force that it rips up rock and sediment and carries it with it. Think of that song from Mulan. You must be swift as a raging fire. That's what a river is when it first starts. Now, eventually, all that energy, as the river keeps going down, as gravity keeps acting on it, that energy wanes. And the river, forms into a body of water called a tributary. And then that tributary continues down the meandering path of the river. Okay. Imagine a child as the creek. The creek before it becomes a waterfall. Actually, that's not true. Actually, no. Yes. Imagine the child as a creek. It's moving downward. It's going towards something. And that burst of energy that is a waterfall, I want to idealize that in human terms as toddlerhood, because toddlers have a lot of energy in them. But a waterfall cannot be contained that easily. Even the strongest dam cannot contain a determined waterfall. Waterfalls are vicious. If you go in them, they can crush you. They are vicious. Okay. Imagine taking a kid that has the energy of a waterfall, uncontained and dynamic, always changing, coming at life with such force, in trying to implant a permanent idea into their being, the permanent idea of transitioning them. Toddlers with waterfall-like energy cannot handle estuary-like conditions. Because by the time a river reaches the estuary, it's going into the ocean, it's near swamps, things have changed, it's much calmer. It still moves, doesn't move as fast. That's the stage of maturity that we all reach. Where am I going with this? Very simple. If you try to use a waterfall for anything, where was I going with this? You guys get my point, right? You get my point, okay? You get my point. That's what I mean, okay? Okay, yes. Yes, Rachel. Thank you. That's right. If you trust a waterfall with your life, you're going to get hurt. That sounds like a weird way to do it, but think of a child like a waterfall, just this immense dynamo of energy that is just going so fast, but has no governing core to them. Children are wild and misbehave most of the time. So are waterfalls. Anyway, I'm doing a bad job explaining this. I'll get better at this analogy as time goes on. Don't worry. Let's continue.
When I think about reproductive freedom, I think about the autonomy and the power of the people. I urge everybody to contemplate what reproductive freedom really means to the ghetto. To communities who are marginalized and stripped of basic human rights every day in the name of racism and redlining.
What? Redlining's been illegal 50 years later. What are you talking about?
The impending overturning or reversal of Roe versus Wade is nothing new to the ghetto.
Okay, stop speaking for everybody in the ghetto.
Mean to a woman who is incarcerated for a petty marijuana charge, who was pregnant by her rapist, and all but free due to the chains of mass incarceration.
Okay, this is conceptual intersectionality.
Had proper sexual education due to conservative laws and zero access to contraceptives.
You have access to contraceptives in this country. It's very easy to get them.
Or an individual with a disability whose fetus is incompatible with their body.
I disagree, Selvar. I disagree.
What does reproductive freedom mean to countless Black mothers who have lost their lives when the healthcare system ignored their cries for help and complications due to childbirth? The insidious racism that exists in our current healthcare system that adversely and disproportionately affects Black and brown communities is unacceptable. What does reproductive freedom mean to a Haitian migrant who was raped on her journey seeking asylum to the United States with all the clothes and her 8-month-old baby on her back? What does reproductive freedom mean to a transgender individual who doesn't align with having a uterus and carrying out the gender binary by going through with the full-term pregnancy? What does reproductive freedom mean to a church member who was raped by their pastor? I say all of this to say that freedom is more than a choice. Reproductive freedom is having autonomy. Freedom is Roe versus Wade in all of its glory.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Roe v. Wade is a restriction
you have a viable choice to choose whether or
on a
not
state's ability to govern
children,
its own affairs.
and to have access to safe, alternative contraceptive education or access to health care.
Okay, she's talking about positive rights now.
Let me be very clear.
Which they're not rights at all.
As I say Black voters matter, I still understand that elected officials who have a propaganda to stifle our access to reproductive justice on a national and local scale conveniently forget the
There's
most
no such thing as
important
reproductive
thing,
justice.
aside from the fact that they are public servants. They forget that it's about us. We are the people that they dare to represent. I do, though, want to highlight elected officials who champion these issues every single day.
You know,
who use their power and their privilege to pull up a seat at the table for us. If you are an elected official who is listening today, I encourage you to come out of your ivory tower and hear me when I say that Texas saw a total of 25,000 rejected mail-in ballots in the recent primary election.
What does that have to do with abortion?
The very foundation of this nation is...
This is the absolute idiocy, non sequitur nature of a reproductive rights, or whatever these people want to phrase this confusion of terms. This is what it is. This is exactly what it is. You go from talking about abortion to fucking mail-in ballots. I'm sorry for cursing, but Jesus. You know... I'm getting tired. I'm getting real tired. You know what? My nation is under assault right now on a foundational level from people who don't understand how to make basic arguments. On all sides. This is just a microcosm of the bigger issue. And the fact that you can, with a straight face, go from abortion to mail-in to voting rights, it's a part of the same spectrum. It's a part of the same spectrum. Voting rights is as much of a contradiction in terms as reproductive rights is, because neither of them are actually rights. Both of them, voting being a privilege that not, by the way, we'd be much better off if it was restricted more in certain cases, because there should be certain people that shouldn't be voting, by the way. Voting being a privilege, and then reproductive services themselves being something that's provided to you. Neither belong to the category of rights. And yet someone with a straight face can go to can just jump across and go to the same thing. I don't have the energy for this today, guys. God help me. I can't. I'm getting worked up.
Future voters matter.
Oh, this is what this is about, right?
We can't
Breeding an
stop,
activist
and
class.
we won't
You're
stop
presuming that
because
every person that is born is going to be
it's
interested in participating in
us.
society. Stop us. Why are you assuming that? No, this is cynicism.
What do we want?
This is cynicism.
When do we want it?
This is cynicism on
What do we
steroids.
want? When do we want it? If we don't get it,
Listen.
if we don't
Listen. If we don't get it. Listen.
Thank you, Austin, Texas.
They just said it. They have been saying this ever since the opinion leaked, even before the opinion of other protests. If we don't get it, shut it down. If we don't get it, burn it down. If we don't get it, shut it down. This is not about collaboration and conversation and discourse and dialectics and finding the truth. This is about complete and utter political domination. No, but this is a Planned Parenthood organizer. We're in Texas, looking at this. All right, let's go back to a different state. Look, we got. Let's see. Can I play this? Can I play this? Can I play this? Okay, hold on, guys. I'm getting a different feed. No, Silvar. No. Hold on. I'll adjust that in a second. Hold on. Let me get this video up. See if I can get this up. Okay. Okay. This video is a bad feed. But okay, hold on. Let me address this. Silvar, I understand where this sentiment comes from. I understand it, and to a certain extent I appreciate it, but I heartily disagree. Here's why I disagree. Power by itself is no. But here's the thing. To say that it's all about power for them is to say that they they value power in and of itself. They don't. They value their objectives, right? Power itself is as just like a hammer has no inherent intrinsic value statement to it. Power itself is a rudimentary, valueless thing. It is a tool, and it is only as good or as bad as one uses it. This idea of absolute power corrupting absolutely is bullshit. Absolute nonsense. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. If you're the kind of person who wants absolute power, you're already corrupt. If you're the kind of person who has a disposition to control and command people, you're already corrupt. Power does nothing to you. Just like a hammer does nothing to you. A wrench does nothing to you. These are things that you have the human will to exercise. It's not about power. It's about values. It's not about power. It's about values. That's just my opinion. But I don't believe it's all about power. That does not do it for me. There's got to be something else happening, and there is something else happening. It's never about power. It's always about values. Always about values. All right, let's proceed. Hold on. We're going to DC next. Okay, hold on. I want to stream from the Women's March, but I'm afraid. Yeah, okay, let's not do that. We're just going to go and do it from this stream. Okay.
Yes. So y'all look, our next leaders that are coming up are from the reproductive justice movement, people who have been fighting at the forefront for so long to ensure that we not only fight for access to abortion, Reproductive
this is
justice
what-
is economic justice. Reproductive justice is justice. Plain and
No, it's
simple.
not.
Plain and simple. All
No,
right,
it's
so I
not.
want to introduce you to these fantastic leaders. First, we got Anne-Marie Benitez, the Senior Director of
I
Government
don't like
Relations at the
having to do
Latino
this
Institute
because
for
I feel like I'm a
Reproductive
broken
Justice.
record.
Yeah, 'cause you can
I'm
go-
a broken record, my friends, but I want us all to understand foundation. And I feel like I'm going to be redundant, but this is okay. And yes, I happen to reference these people quite a lot. And that's okay. You can use, you don't have to. I'm going to play this until I find what I'm trying to find.
Who for that?
National Latina Institute for Reproductive Justice. We fight for all Latinas, Latinx to have full access to reproductive health, dignity, and justice. I want to start by saying thank you to every single person here. Thank you, because the fight we're up against is going to need all of us. That's right. That mother, that person, that daughter, that tia, that neighbor, ourselves, anyone seeking care to abortion, we're going to need to help each other. And you will not be alone. I know this because look at all the beautiful people here today. Thank you. And we are here to deliver a clear message. Abortion is a fundamental human right.
This is the monument. By the way, Washington, D.C. is just a constellation of idolatry. So, for those of you who have not been to D.C., I'm sure some of you guys have. When you walk, so on the other side of the monument is the waterfront, and then there's like the Lincoln Memorial. That's the National Mall, and then there's also the World War II Memorial. So when you walk upwards, you walk north, you're going straight towards the monument, and it's all idolatry. The Lincoln Memorial, the Washington Monument, they're all shrines to leaders that Americans have completely and utterly just idolized, and it's disgusting. I did a video. I did a video at the mall once, and I'll play it for you guys later, but it's just idolatry, and I hate it. I don't want monuments and shrines to leaders. I want us to live out their principles, not anyway, whatever.
Regardless of the decision of the Supreme Court, the Poderosas and their families in Texas will continue to fight so they see their human rights. Together, we must fight for a world in which everyone should be able to receive their abortion care in the way that is best for them. Latina Institute will be proudly there, fighting every step of the way. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Monsu with the National Asian Pacific American Women's Forum. Where my Asian women at?
All the identity politics groups are on their way. Just doing the protests. Hold on, I'm trying to find something, guys. I think it'll probably explain my views of justice quite well.
And abortion is a critical part of our reproductive lives. For our community, 35% of pregnancies end in abortion. But the path to get there is especially difficult and filled with deep cultural stigmas. But despite attempts to shame us, and we will not be shamed, AAPI women support 85% of us support abortion access, and we demand our voices be heard today. We are tired of attempts to take away our right to abortion care. We are tired of attempts to criminalize us. We are tired of attempts to control our bodies.
So,
and no matter what the
I'll
Supreme
leave that
Court
alone for a second.
decides, we will
Watch it.
fight for our fundamental rights and our freedoms. Thank you so much for coming out today and march on!
Decent people, how y'all doing today? Make some noise out here, good folks. I heard this was a rally. I heard this was an action. We need to hear your voices up here. How you doing today? My name is Monica Simpson. I'm the executive director of Sister Song. We are the National Women of Color Reproductive Justice Collective, y'all, based in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm going to start off today a little unconventional for some. My ancestors, our ancestors, told us to be ready for this moment, y'all. As a Black Southern lesbian woman fighting for sexual and reproductive justice, I stand on the shoulders of Black Southern women like Harriet, like Sojourner.
I'm sure you do, lady. Enough. I can't take it anymore. We're going to go to Chicago now. This is happening all across the nation, guys. Hundreds of events. These are hundreds of people across this nation. Going to Chicago now. So this is in Chicago. All these people. All these people rallying for something that does not exist, a right that does not exist, a right that is better termed a privilege. That's what it is by nature. It's in Chicago. This is in Chicago. It's in Chicago right now. Okay. Let's go over to Texas.
Us 50 years of valuable time to codify abortion rights into federal law. We haven't gotten it done yet, and it is clear that time is running out. This leaked opinion is a wake-up call, a moment for us to recognize that our whole nation must be mobilized like never before. This is the moment for us to organize the majority of Americans that believe that abortion is health care, that believe that abortion care is human rights.
Well, this is slightly misleading. It's true that a lot of Americans don't want to restrict abortion early, but
is it up to us to do this work? Will we support our abortion?
It doesn't matter what they want, in all honesty. None of this is correct.
Will you support and fund Planned Parenthood and our abortion providers?
No, I would rather.
Are we going to march and rally and strike and fight until our voices are heard and shake the halls of power? The civil rights movement was not won with one election. The suffrage movement was not won.
Don't you dare link this movement with two movements that were built on recognizing fundamental human dignity against state prohibition. This is a movement that is in response to a court decision that shouldn't have happened in the first place, that actually made your privilege to have an abortion in an even more dangerous position, because the Supreme Court changes its mind all the time. They overturn previous rulings all the time. You knew, or if you were smart, you and your fellows knew that it was only a matter of time before this decision was reversed. So instead of using federalism, instead of going to state governments and fighting for it there, you all went to the courts. Then now it's getting reversed, and your response is they're attacking us. No, they're following the Constitution for once. They're doing their jobs for once.
For working class people. Our movement is worth it to build a democracy that respects you whether you are black, brown, or white, LGBTQIA, or immigrant. A movement to make sure everyone is paid a living wage and has parental leave and can afford to live. A movement that can save our planet and save our futures. We can build a world. We can build a world where we're no longer on defense trying to protect rights of decades past, but build a truly better future for ourselves and for our descendants. That is reproductive justice.
At Target, the low prices never end.
This is Kim Jong-un, ruler of North Korea. He's just 36 years old, but he commands the world's fourth largest military. He has nuclear weapons, and his family has ruled over their people using violence and terror for over 70 years. But Kim is a man torn between two worlds: the traditions of his brutal communist past and the need to become a legitimate modern leader.
That is his dilemma. Am I going to come out and become a cleaner, softer dictator? Or am I going to continue to retain this criminal regime that I inherited from my grandfather and my father? And that dilemma, you know what? It could be the end of the Kim dynasty.
Whoa. Whoa. What was that? How? What? You guys saw that? Why did National Geographic come? We're going to have to cut that off. Why did that happen? Wow. 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 Well, we're not going to watch Kim Jong-un. Although that'll probably be more intellectually stimulated than watching this nonsense. So the stream ended, basically. Okay. They ended over in Texas. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay, yeah, they ended over in Texas. Okay. Okay. Don't worry, we're finding replacement. No, look, I would much rather watch Kim Jong-un than trust me. I can hardly stand this nonsense. But I love you guys, and I'm trying to keep my pulse on the cultural sentiment. So we're doing this. Plus, I enjoy it too. I just wish I was more high energy, guys. My apologies. I went to sleep really late last night. So I'm just tired, but it'll be all right. We're going to go for as long as we need to. We're already at 2 hours. No, James. No. You know, I don't want to spoil it because I'm actually going to do a video about the Civil War issue. I've got 2 very important videos coming up. But I'm going to be about the Civil War issue, the national divorce, and all of that stuff. In fact, I sometimes on my Twitter, I will say what I'm going to do, and I'll use it as a reference point. But no, I don't believe that we're heading to a civil war. I think people are addicted to nihilism. They're addicted to despair. They're addicted to just, I don't know what it is. We have a culture in this country, and in the West as well, in which we are particularly fixated with our own demise. You can see this in many different sectors of society. You can see this in entertainment, where you have the show called The Walking Dead. I never watched a single episode of that nonsense because I knew what it represented. It represented this post-apocalyptic world where human beings were quite literally just tearing at each other, trying to fight these dead people. It's just not. It's nonsense. Who wants to watch so many seasons of something that shows the demise of your race, the human race? That doesn't help you become a better person. That doesn't help you advance your life. That doesn't edify you. That doesn't give you knowledge. It's entertainment, which is priming you for your own destruction. And we see the same kind of parallels in our political conversation. I won't mention names, but look at some of the most popular political commentators. You will see in their titles, America is doomed. Civil war is coming. Our institutions are dead. If this was the mentality that Americans of every generation had throughout the nation of this nation's history, we would have never survived to see the 20th century. We would have never survived the Depression. We would have never survived World War II. We would have never survived the Civil Rights Movement and Jim Crow. We would have never survived the Cold War, for goodness sakes. We would have. I mean, I can keep going on. We would have never survived 9/11. If we had, I'm blessed and thankful that Americans throughout the generations didn't have this defeatist mentality. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. Now, I'm going to be doing a video about this national divorce stuff, this Civil War stuff, and something else too. I forgot what it was, but I don't have patience for what they call doomerism. I have no patience for it. No, sir. We're about hope and inspiration. And I have people in my life who will sometimes tell me, oh, Christian, you're just young and naive, and your beliefs will pass with age. And those people, I generally tell them, stop with that, please. I don't appreciate it. It's not appropriate. Maybe your age has made you, angry and bitter. But I pray when I'm at your age, I'm not angry and bitter. I pray when I'm in my 60s, I'm not angry and bitter. There's no way to live life. Life is a gift. And if you live it angry, you're just wasting your time. You're wasting your time. So I don't know. Maybe I am naive, but I'd rather be naive and happy than bitter and angry. Man, I like being happy. Okay, we gotta get back to DC. I've got to do so. No, James. No, man. We've not gotten to that point. I don't believe it.
Imagine what it would be like to put your life on hold to travel
DC.
out of state for a simple, safe procedure. It's okay to
DC.
feel overwhelmed, to feel frustrated and scared right now. This moment is bigger than just abortion rights. We need them to see that we aren't going to take this lying down no matter what the decision is. Abortion isn't going anywhere, so we need to make sure folks are having access to safe and legal abortion. So continue to show up, talk about abortion to your friends and family, and donate to your local abortion funds. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you again, y'all. These are the most important stories you're going to hear today, because these stories show us that this leaked decision and the court's attempts to rob us of our rights will never stand, because our lives are too important. Our lives are too complex, and all of our reasons are the right reasons.
No, they're not. You can't even justify them
Next
beyond
up, we have
category
Sonia
errors.
Spoo with
How can they be
Ultraviolet.
right?
She is their director of the reproductive rights campaigns. Come on, Sonia.
Everyone, thank you so much for being here, rain or shine, because a fight does not depend on the weather, y'all. Let's face it. I want to hear you guys give me a little more energy. Let's make sure just Toledo and the suburbs hears you. Let's raise our voices.
Oh, he's been hearing people outside of his
right.
house all the time.
I'm so honored to be here today with you. My name is Sonia Spoon. I'm representing Ultraviolet, and I'm here to proclaim abortion is freedom.
Thank you, Brett. No, abortion is not a freedom. Abortion is a procedure that takes...
The ability to
Anyway.
decide when or if we form or expand our families is a fundamental, basic human right. It is a sacred right. We need access to quality health care where people can bring pregnancies to term without going broke. We deserve the ability to choose whether or not to become a parent.
You don't deserve to not be broke. Everyone, you have a right to life, a right to liberty, a right to your property. That means you have a right, you have self-ownership, and within your self-ownership is contained your life and your liberty, which is your capacity to act. Okay, let's break this down real quick. So, in your right to life and your liberty, you have the right to pursue a family. You don't have a right to a family. You have the right to pursue wealth. You don't have a right to wealth. You can use your liberty for many different ends, but those ends cannot include demanding something of someone else that you don't possess in the first place, unless you got into a contract with them, but that's different. That's your right to self-ownership and property coming in there. So any basic understanding of rights is going to say that this idea is nonsense. Carry on.
So we will march, we will vote, yes, we gotta vote, all that. But that is not and cannot be enough. We have to continue to hold those in power accountable, because we are the majority.
That's the problem.
We will fight until our rights and our
Majorities
freedoms
have a bad
are
track record.
respected, are protected, and are expanded. These institutions that we are surrounded by, they only have power if we give it to them. True power rests with us, the people of this nation. So make no mistake, this draft opinion is a direct attack on the power that we have harnessed and built over generations with our ancestors to make this country a more just and equal country. The same people attacking our right to bodily autonomy are also attempting to wrest away our political autonomy at the voting booth. And no more.
See.
More.
So far, within the past 2 hours, we have seen the jump between abortion and voting rights, of abortion and elections. We've seen this. This is the curse of intersectionality. It denies distinction. It denies and the intersectional scholar will say, no, we actually care about distinction because we're looking at different identities. No. You're talking about different aspects of a single thing, and then you're using that single thing to create a method of analysis. That is not distinction. True distinction is going to go outside of the box. It's not going to be contained in the box. Intersectionality denies distinction, and when you deny distinction, everything looks the same. When everything looks the same, you cannot appreciate what things truly are. In other words, you're in a fantasy reality. That's the problem. And when your sentiments flow from this highly constructed idea of what reality is, you can't make a coherent argument. If your argument does not correspond to reality, it's not coherent in the first place. It need not even be responded to. It can be safely dismissed.
With my fundamental rights on the line. So we gather today to bring forth that which is done in darkness in the Supreme Court to the bright light of day, to say no more bans.
If there wasn't a
no
leak, it would have been brought to light.
No more business or
That's how
politics
procedure
as
works.
usual. Because in this moment, we move with a fierce urgency and determination, if we have to dismantle those institutions that are no longer fit for purpose. So this is our fight. This is our time. We are all we got, and we are all we need, because we are the majority, and we will absolutely win. Thank you so much.
One more time for Sonia Spoo, y'all. Y'all, I believe that we will win because we love each other enough to fight for one another, right? Y'all, somebody look at your neighbor and say, I love you.
No, this is not.
And I'm willing to fight for you.
This is not love.
Look at your other neighbor.
Love. This is not love. This is not love. This is not love. What is love, my friends? Love is a emotion that is of universal value. Love is the foundation upon which we interact with ourselves, with society, with civilization. Love is the glue that keeps social functions running coherently. Unless those functions are forced by a government, in which case they're not real social functions. They're essentially propped up mannequins at the behest of a mannequin master. That's what love is. What this is right now, this is spite and anger dressed up as a universal emotion. I hate it when people hide behind what are otherwise benevolent qualities to justify their malevolent ends. This is not love. In fact, I might do a video now on the philosophy of love, because love is wonderful. There's all kinds of aspects to the concept of love, right? You can go back to the Laches and the Terminides, which is a Platonic dialogue where Plato talks about love all the time. You can go. There's a lot of things we can do with this concept of love, and I might do it. Because this is not love. This is not love at all. In fact, I'm going to make a point to make that video sometime this week, because this is not love. This ain't love at all.
if we are Washington, we know that right now is our time. And right now it is our turn. It's our turn to build power like we've never built power before, connecting the abortion rights movement with the labor movement, with the climate movement, with the Black Lives Matters movement, with the Native American.
Hold on, this lady froze. Why'd you freeze, lady?
This nation win in this
Okay,
election
it's on their
cycle,
side, not
we've got
mine.
to build the power necessary to turn the freedoms that are
It's on their side, not mine, guys. It's on their side, not mine.
deserve over to them.
Okay, she's a
in
still image,
their
whatever.
generation. We've got to build the power necessary to make sure that every Republican and radical right-wing conservative who wants to stand in the way of a woman's right to choose an abortion is voted out. We've got to build that power, and you being here today, the hundreds of thousands of you being here today, not just in Washington, but in New York, in Texas, in Louisiana, in Mississippi, in California, in Illinois, everywhere we are today is a demonstration of our power and our commitment and our determination to vote them out. Thank you, Washington. One more time for LaFonza Butler, y'all. Woo, we got one more speaker for you, and then we are going to hit the streets because it's almost time to march.
About to march, guys.
Now, our final speaker is a true hero and a true champion.
Okay.
This is a person that sees the reality of abortion.
Here's how we're going to do this,
access
guys.
for the
At 2, it's 2 right now. After this speech, they're going to go ahead and march to the Supreme Court. That's when the fireworks will start. And I'm going to go find a feed of them marching, and I'm going to watch. We're going to watch and comment. After they're done marching, one of two things can happen. I can stay on throughout the rest of the day. I can come back and then stay on throughout the rest of the day, covering other rallies across the country. Or I can get off early and maybe, if I feel like it, come back later, but maybe not. I don't know. I only want to come back if you guys are going to be here to watch. If not, then I'm just going to take the day off. But because this is just a bunch of I feel like I'm being redundant. I feel so redundant, guys. I mean, I'm having to use the same arguments because this is the same kind of stuff that we've been getting for the past few weeks now. None of this is new or inspiring. But regardless, we'll be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with an interview. Regardless.
And it's clear that the courts, all reproductive health care, prenatal care, gynecologic care, miscarriage care, quality and equitable maternal care. Abortion is safe. It's normal. It's essential health care. And no matter what the courts decide, abortion is not going away. And with this Supreme Court decision, it may open the doors to surveillance, to punishment, and criminalization of anybody even suspected of having an abortion. No matter what the pregnancy outcome, no one should be criminalized for getting the care they need. Nobody should be afraid to see their healthcare provider. Communities deserve access to care that's free from punishment, shame.
Is it really normal? I wouldn't call it normal.
And I mean all of us, because the language in the leaked draft opinion opens the door to attacks on healthcare beyond abortion access. This case has implications for freedom in choosing birth control, for freedom in accessing gender-affirming care, and freedom in choosing who we marry and with whom we have sex. As a physician, I trust that my patients know their bodies. I trust that they know what they need to
After this,
in a way
I'm
that's
probably
safe, healthy.
there's nothing more I can add to this conversation. This is
As a
just
physician, I trust that my patients know when it's best for them to become parents, how best to parent the children they already have. I
This
trust
is
my
just
patients know when it's
insanity
best
on
to end the
stilts.
suffering of an abnormal pregnancy.
Insanity on stilts.
Access to abortion care gives patients control over their own bodies and lives. So I will close with what I want everybody across the country to know. Today, abortion care is still accessible. Birth control is still legal. Patients can go to their appointments and providers can provide the compassionate care they need. As a physician, it is my priority to ensure that patients can get timely, compassionate care. And because of this, I was working on Friday. Because of this, I will care for patients on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, and on all the days after that.
Well, good for you, lady.
As a proud member of a community of physician advocates across the country, we will always fight for what we know is just, and that includes abortion. Because we put our patients' health care first. And because abortion is health care is not a crime. So stop these bans on our bodies.
Okay. Stop these bans on our bodies. Yes. One more time,
No
y'all.
one's
Let me
banning
hear
your
you.
body.
Let me hear you for all those 26 states where they plan to ban abortion. Give me a shout for them.
I may not even leave this stream out. This is just
what, because
pure
no law,
nonsense.
No politician, no ban is going to stand in the way of us making sure that we got our people, that we get people the care that they need. So here's what we know. Roe v. Wade's days are numbered. We got to take that in. But we also know that Roe v. Wade was never enough for Black folks, for brown folks, for young folks, for queer folks, for rural folks, for low-income folks. It was never enough. And we got to be clear that the fate of Roe is not our fate because we are ready. We are ready to fight. So all that's left is for us to decide, who are we going to be in this moment of history? Who are we going to be now that we are no longer only defending Roe? And I'm here to tell you, we're going to be the voice on the other end of the line saying, we'll get you an appointment no matter what. We are going to be the abortion funders, the abortion navigators, the abortion storytellers. We are going to be the pain in the neck of every politician who will commit wholeheartedly and urgently to take our rights in every law, in every state, in every part of this country.
That is living.
Good people, we are going to be the linked arms with trans folks and queer folks and Black and brown folks and immigrants, because we know that none of us is free until all of us are free.
No, you're free by your nature.
Y'all, we are going to be the builders of a new foundation for our rights. We are going to be on the right side of history here. We are going to be as
history has no sides. History is a record.
Are you ready?
History is simply a record.
Y'all, so thank you for being
history
here.
Is a record.
Thank you for fighting with us. And guess what? Who's ready to march? Oh, no, I said, who's ready to march?
Okay, they're about to march, guys.
Come on, y'all.
See if we can get feet of it.
Do this thing. What I want you to do is follow the directions of the awesome marshals as we exit the grounds at the corner right behind me. All right, we're going to exit at the corner right behind me next to the medic tent. And we are taking this fight onto the streets.
Believe you me, I would be
Come on, y'all. Let's get
here
to
right
marching.
now. If I had a cameraman,
play us out into the streets to ensure that our voices are heard, not only here in D.C. at the monuments, but down at the Supreme Court and down in the halls of Congress and down at the White House too.
Okay.
So come on, y'all. Let's get behind me. Follow the marshals on the ground. They're in some real cute yellow vests to ensure that we can get there safely and proudly and loudly, y'all. One more time. Thank you. We are in this fight together. Let's do it.
All right. Cut that off. All right. I'm at an impasse. Okay, in Los Angeles, they just started. At Los Angeles, they just started. Let's go see what's going on in Los Angeles. They just started. Guys, I don't know. Do you want me to stay on for a little bit more? I don't know. I really don't. I really don't. I really don't know, because this is grating me. Okay, actually, in Brooklyn, they're doing something. Oh. In Brooklyn. Oh. Now hold on. I like the Beastie Boys, so I have to see this one. No Sleep Till Brooklyn. No Sleep Till. Hold on. Oh man. This is in Brooklyn. Oh man. Oh man. Yeah, it is. Okay, let's try to find something else. Okay. Guys, I can't. If these people... Okay. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Okay. Look, personally, guys, I don't... This is all... These protests are not intellectually stimulating. And I want to give you guys something that's going to edify you. And these protests don't do it. And so, opportunity cost, right? So here's what I'm going to do. I made a decision. I am going to go ahead and take the rest of the day off and enjoy my Saturday. Not pay attention to any of this stuff. Because this is all nonsense. Tomorrow, I'll be back here at 2 p.m. this time with an interview. Someone special. Don't miss it. Then we'll do what we normally do throughout the week. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go sleep. Well, not sleep, but I'm going to go rest. I'll see all of you guys later. Thank you for being here. Hope you guys have a nice day. And stay pensive. Bye, guys.